Bitcoin is not crypto. You may have heard this saying in the Bitcoin community a lot of times. In this video today, I'm going to show you why this is the case, why crypto and especially altcoin projects are a different thing, and how you can spot the difference for yourself. First of all, we have to determine what the vast differences are and what the fundamentals of Bitcoin are. See, Bitcoin solved one very key problem back when it was launched in 2009. And that is that people can take their self-sovereignty back, being in control of their own money and assets, and having the ability to exchange value peer-to-peer directly without the middleman. No more need to trust a bank or a third party, and no more need to ask for permission to spend your own money or value, depending a little bit on how you value these things. Bitcoin was a little bit of a result out of the 2008 financial crisis because that showed that lack of actually responsibility in the financial system. And therefore, when it launched and the eventual years leading up to it, a lot of that trust in yourself and in other people had to be either left out, don't trust the third parties anymore, or you had to build your own trust up again. Bitcoin is also one of the only digital real estate that enables you to hold on value and to really control that value rather than actually trusting an institution. But you can only do this if you hold it in self-custody. So very important, Bitcoin in self-custody is only proper Bitcoin. Just that we set the stage clear. Altcoin projects and crypto projects as a whole are a different thing, and it already says it in the name, projects. You have to treat those things more like tech startups, where you have a CEO who's public, you have a CMO who does a lot of work, the chief marketing officer, you have a CFO, a chief financial officer, and you often have individuals who are representing these projects. They always come with a token, and they're always claiming to be a Bitcoin killer, solving problem X, Y, Z faster. But if you then actually take a look on it, it's stuff like putting bananas on a blockchain or whatever that has no real world use case. And the problem of cross-border payments and these promises that go faster and that they need to be improved and put on a blockchain, that's frankly also not true because that's the exact problem Bitcoin already solved. Granted, there are projects such as stablecoins, for example, that do fit a weird niche between the times. Unless everyone in the world uses Bitcoin, and we're still in the fiat world where you have euros, dollars, Swiss francs, you kind of have to use a project in the middle as a, let's call it bridge solution, where you have the advantages of Bitcoin, self-custody, you can control what you can do, no need to ask for permission, and the fiat-related price as in a stablecoin. So there are things that are solving these issues. However, having said that, you can also do this with Bitcoin by determining what is the price? I'll send it from point A to point B, and you then calculate, obviously, that the person receiving the funds has actually the right amount of funds on their end. So in the end, all of these altcoins and projects are just trying to be the next big thing, and they're not really solving a problem just as Bitcoin did, owning and controlling your future, essentially. They're just trying to make something that already works better. And it often doesn't lead to actually much improvement. And that leads into Bitcoin's unique properties. For 15 years now, maybe a bit longer depending when you watch this video, it has been plotting along. There is no CEO, no CMO, no central institution in control of Bitcoin. On the protocol and network level, you have open source developers. Bitcoin is also an open source code project that enable to actually propose improvements to Bitcoin, and only through acceptance and common sense in the community itself is that improvement being worked on. This is why then stuff improved and why you had soft forks like Segwit, for example, where you would then build scaling solutions on it. That was not envisioned by Satoshi back in the day. And speaking of him, yes, he was the founder of Bitcoin, but in comparison to other projects, he did not actually get a pre-mine or a pre-sale, or he had insiders on the project. He started the network, he mined, and he waited 6 days for someone else in the network to also find a block. That was Hal Finney, by the way. And then from there on, it grew naturally. So no need to have a CEO or CMO or CFO in control of things, because the project alone grows in its own natural state, which is also why it took more or less, let's say, 12 years to be established and to be good enough considered, for example, for a big public companies such as MicroStrategy to invest in. All other projects that claim to do this now as well have been born out of that vision of Bitcoin, which they, in full fairness, often say, but then they want to improve something that already works. And that leads to the main issue with the crypto industry. As I said, it's a group of insiders, mostly existing of a few individuals, CEO, CMO, CFO, take whoever you want to get there. They create and control the protocol as visible in some projects these days. And out of that, they have a lot of control up until that project actually launches. They can go out and spend 100 billions of their tokens, own it completely, and then, quote, go public, but then never actually say that they're a security. It's totally different, of course, joking aside. And from there on out, control the entire market. That wasn't the case with Bitcoin. If you actually had to get Bitcoin back in the days, when it launched, you had to mine for it. There was no way to get an insight and get the scoop of things. And with that, having the ability to create tokens out of thin air in the crypto space, you really get only into an improvement of the current system, a system that's being run on people who are closest to the money printer and profiting from it. Think of big institutions, banks, etc. And the only insiders who are lucky enough to get there then also further advance and get to that point where they can say, okay, I've achieved my financial goal or whatever it is. That doesn't solve the problem Bitcoin envisioned, because it wasn't here to get rich quick. It was here to solve the problem from point A to point B and having to ask for no permission. So with that out of the way, there are a few things how you can actually spot if these altcoin projects promise a lot, and if they really stick to Bitcoin, if it's associated, maybe it's a scaling solution, maybe it's an improvement of Bitcoin, or if they're really only using Bitcoin in name only to then further market their services. These points are: who is actually controlling that network? Is it individuals? Is it an open source project? Can you verify all of that? Further along, if there is a group behind it, like a foundation typically, that then gives the job to the developers and they in fact get paid in token and back, and then until it launches, everyone sort of has their own stuff with them? Or is it really something where someone proposed an idea, here's how you get these coins, and you then slowly move into actually having a network adoption? If everything is being controlled from one corner of the end, you can make sure that that's most likely one of these projects that using marketing, clever marketing at that front to hype the project up, and at one point, all of these insiders unfortunately dump on the people getting into it. Bitcoin, on the other hand, doesn't need that, because the continuous adoption and the way it's being built through proof of work, where you have to actually invest time to then also get Bitcoin, is the vast difference to altcoins. Look, I get it. Sometimes these crazy returns you read about in the media from these altcoins, they appear luring, but please remember that is most likely always a very short period of time. And the actual goal is not to then get more out of it by dumping on other people, at least in my opinion and in my morality, but rather to use something that actually solves a real world problem. And never forget, if these projects promise something, most likely it will either change later down the road, or that promise is just never really kept. Sometimes speaking the truth is hard, and I'm fully aware that there might be some crypto people in the comments below, but just have an open mind at this point. If you have suggestions, if you don't think Bitcoin and crypto are not the same thing, if they're actually under one umbrella, let me know with a comment below, because I'm curious to find out what you truly think. But until then, I look forward to seeing you in the next video here on our YouTube channel.